The sharp echo of metal rang through the garage that morning, blending with the soft drone of an air compressor and the aroma of engine oil. Yet beneath that recognizable disorder, something more profound was taking shape, an incident that would transform multiple lives irrevocably. Malik leaned over the exposed hood of an aging sedan, his fingers stained with grease and his eyes weary from laboring throughout the night. He hadn't planned to arrive this early, but he had vowed to himself that no client would ever depart this establishment without assistance, particularly not someone who brought his late mother to mind. And when the fragile elderly woman appeared with shaking hands and a vehicle that wouldn't turn over, he didn't perceive a task. He perceived a person requiring help. If you have faith in generosity, in opportunities for redemption, and in the ability of empathy to transform lives, please ensure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4. Your engagement sustains these narratives of optimism and humanity. Malik had been employed at Redline Auto Repairs for merely 6 months. He was youthful, only 22, but existence had matured him beyond his years. His father had worked in a factory, departed too early in an incident that left Malik as the primary provider for his younger sister. Finances were perpetually scarce, and the boss, Mr. Harlan, a rigid man with decades of expertise and minimal tolerance, repeatedly emphasized that generosity didn't cover expenses. Malik never protested. He required the position more than anything. Yet deep within, he couldn't suppress the instinct that told him assisting others held greater importance than earnings. That morning, as the elderly woman, Mrs. Green, positioned herself beside her disabled car, distress etched across her face, Malik observed her eyes brimming with concern. She clarified that her car had ceased functioning during her drive to the pharmacy and that she couldn't manage repairs until her pension arrived the following week. Malik smiled gently and stated, "Allow me to take a brief look." He was unconcerned whether she could pay or not. He understood what it meant to stand powerless with no one prepared to assist. Therefore, he substituted a minor component, sealed the leak, and refilled her tank with the remaining fuel he had kept in his personal canister. Mrs. Green's eyes began to water when the engine rumbled back to life. She attempted to present him with her final few dollars, but he declined with a shake of his head. "Simply drive safely, ma'am," he murmured, gesturing her farewell. He was unaware someone had been observing the entire encounter, his boss. When Mr. Harlan discovered Malik had serviced the car without collecting a cent, rage erupted within him. He charged into the workshop later that afternoon, his voice piercing enough to slice through steel. The junior mechanics became motionless in their positions, their wrenches suspended midair. Malik remained stationary as Mr. Harlan bellowed, his finger thrusting an accusation, veins protruding on his forehead. "You believe this is a charitable organization? You believe we can operate a business on sympathy?" The phrase stung, but Malik maintained his silence. He attempted to clarify, but Harlan refused to hear him. The altercation escalated in volume until, in a climactic explosion of rage, Harlan terminated him immediately. The room became quiet. The two apprentices in the rear stared in shock. Malik stood immobilized, tears gathering in his eyes, yet resisting dissent. Mrs. Green, who had come back to express gratitude with homemade cookies, positioned herself near the entrance, both hands pressed against her mouth in dismay as she witnessed the young man forfeit everything for assisting her. Her heart shattered that moment. Malik silently withdrew his gloves, set them on the workbench, and departed without additional words. Days transformed into nights saturated with doubt. Malik pursued employment everywhere, but faced rejection repeatedly. Without recommendations, no one was willing to employ him. The modest sum of money he had accumulated rapidly vanished. His sister, oblivious to what had transpired, continued questioning why he appeared so troubled. He assured her everything was acceptable, but the reality pressed heavily within him. His aspirations of eventually establishing his own modest repair facility were fading away. Meanwhile, Redline Auto Repairs started to feel peculiarly emptier without him. The other mechanics detected the quietness in the mornings, the absence of amusement, the vanished atmosphere of camaraderie Malik had contributed. Customers started to voice dissatisfaction as well. Malik's truthfulness had secured their confidence, and without him, many ceased coming back. But the genuine catalyst arrived 3 days later when Mr. Harlan welcomed an unanticipated visitor, Mrs. Green. She entered with her cane, her delicate lavender cardigan properly fastened, and a resolute expression in her exhausted eyes. She confronted the boss, her voice quivering but audible. She revealed who she was, the woman whose vehicle Malik had repaired. She informed him how that very same day, after departing the garage, she had been traveling to see her ailing grandson in the hospital. Without Malik's intervention, she wouldn't have arrived in time. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she described how that young mechanic's unselfishness had enabled her to bid farewell before her grandson died that evening. "He didn't repair a car," she declared, voice faltering. "He provided me something I can never reimburse, a closing moment with someone I cherished." For the first occasion in years, Mr. Harlan's austere composure wavered. His expression mellowed. His hands shook faintly. He grasped the magnitude of the error he had committed. The vision of him yelling at the young man replayed in his thoughts like a wound reopening. That night he was unable to sleep. He reflected on his own son lost in a road accident years prior and how he had constructed this business to flee his sorrow. He had sealed his heart to sentiment, convinced that discipline and authority would hold the anguish at bay. But Malik's compassion had penetrated through that frigid barrier. The following morning, Harlan reached a conclusion. He located Malik's address through one of the apprentices and traveled there personally. The young man resided in a small deteriorating neighborhood where the walls of the residence appeared fatigued and optimism seemed to linger tenuously in the atmosphere. When Malik answered the door and spotted his previous boss standing there, he became rigid. He anticipated anger, perhaps humiliation, but not the expression of regret in the older man's eyes. Mr. Harlan confessed he had been mistaken. He apologized genuinely, something he hadn't accomplished in years. He extended Malik his position back, not merely as a mechanic, but as the new assistant workshop manager, acknowledging the integrity and humanity the young man contributed to the workplace. Malik was rendered speechless. Tears gathered in his eyes, and he nodded gradually, incapable of locating words. When he came back to the garage, everyone assembled around, applauding and beaming. Mrs. Green was present, too, standing with pride, her hands pressed to her chest, whispering prayers of thankfulness. The strain that once occupied that space had disappeared, supplanted by something warmer, more luminous, more human. Malik resumed work that day, repairing engines and reviving hope, not only in cars, but in hearts. If this narrative moved your heart or recalled to you the strength of kindness, don't neglect to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4 for additional genuine emotional narratives that demonstrate goodness still prevails in the world.